your own way. And you will come to the kingdom and you will say, Lord, here we are. We are your children. We are the church. We are covered by the blood. And the Jews rejected you, so that's their problem. It doesn't work this way with God. And then he says, and who knows but that you have come to a royal position for such a time as this. This is the opportunity of the church. Because he says, if you do not do it, somebody else will do it. You know, do you want somebody else to do it? I mean, God can do everything. God can use a donkey. But this is the time for Esther to move here. And when Esther receives this answer, finally her eyes open, and she has this revelation. And in verses 4, in chapter 4, verses 15 to 17, we see, then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai, go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maids will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went away and carried out all Esther's instructions. And now we see this third church, which is the church that is rising in many nations today. And this church is called by God, and this church is destined by God to accomplish his will. And she says, if I perish, I perish, which means I am ready to be on the altar on behalf of the Jews. You remember what Ruth said? She said, your God will be my God. Your people will be my people. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you die, I will die. And wherever you are buried, I will be buried. It's a covenant unto death. This is very strong. It speaks of sacrifice. And there may be sacrifice to do, because when you speak about Israel, you will be condemned by many people. And it may be dangerous in certain cases. But here, Esther gives instructions. And she says, let's take 3 days of fasting. Now, these 3 days, remember, they are very relevant of the end times, because we see it in Hosea 6, verse 2. And it says, after 2 days, he will revive us. On the third day, he will restore us, that we may live in his presence. And this is specifically spoken here in this chapter of Hosea about the Jewish people. And it says that for 2 days, which, 2 days is 2,000 years, 1 day is like 1,000 years for the Lord. 2,000 years from Jesus, the Jews suffered in the hands of the nations, but on the third day, and this is the time of prayer, of fasting for Israel, on the third day, the Lord will restore Israel. Not only rescue Israel from her enemies, but restore Israel and bring salvation to Israel. I'm just one example before you, but there are many, many thousands. And this is a process that the Lord is doing daily. The Lord is saving the Jewish people. This should be a joy for the church. Because the church has prayed for the salvation of the Jews for so many years. And now, this is the accomplishment, the fulfillment of the prayers of many, many Christians. I was prayed for. My family also. I know, because one day a Christian woman knocked at our door. We were at the time living in a kibbutz, and she said, "I heard that you're born again believers," and we said, "Yes, we received the Lord." And she said, "You don't know what it means for me, because for 10 years I prayed for at least one family in this kibbutz to believe." And she could see the fulfillment of her prayers. If you pray for the salvation of the Jews will be saved. You know, I prayed when I came to the Lord. I thought I was the only one in Israel, but my first instinct was to pray for my wife, and she received the Lord, to pray for my children, and they received the Lord, to pray for we had an adopted son who didn't want to hear anything about Jesus because he had been warned against us. And we prayed for him for 1 year, and he received the Lord. My mother was very much anti-Christian. She was the one who used to instruct us to be very careful with the Christians, because the Christians hate the Jews, and they used to persecute the Jews and so on. And so when I saw my mother after I was saved, I said to her, you know, you need to consider it, because you're the Messiah of the Jews is Jesus. And she said to me, "You're crazy, you know, Jesus cannot be the Messiah of the Jews. He's the Messiah of the Christians. We are Jews." And she sent me back. And then I continued to pray daily for my mother. And one day I went to visit her in France, and I said, you know, you really need to consider it. Jesus is really the Messiah of the Jewish people. And I said, it's all over in the Old Testament, the Jewish Bible. And she said, "In the Jewish Bible? You're crazy. What are you talking about? It's impossible. Jesus in the Jewish Bible, the rabbis never told us." And she said, "You know what? I will believe it only if you show it to me in my father's Bible." She said this because my grandfather was an Orthodox Jew, and she spent all his time in the synagogue. So I said, "Okay, bring your father's Bible." And she brought a very old Bible from 1906. And I opened it, and it was Old and New Testament. So I don't know if my grandfather was a secret believer, but I showed my mother in her father's Bible that Jesus is the Messiah of the Jews, and she received the Lord. And you know, this Bible, she received when my grandfather died. She gave all his properties and money to his 5 sons. But he called my mother on his deathbed, and she was the only one that he blessed. And he said, "I'm blessing you, and the only thing I'm going to leave to you is this Bible." And through this Bible, she received the Lord. And then when I saw this, that the Lord answers prayers, I decided to pray I said, okay, now I have 3 sisters. And I decided to pray daily for my 3 sisters. And within a long period of time, my 3 sisters received the Lord. So through prayer, my whole family received the Lord. And so I'm saying this to you because this is the time to pray for the salvation of the Jews. This is the time to pray for Israel. And this is what we see that Esther did. She went to the king, and as she knew that she had access to the king, and he stretched his golden scepter. Why? Because it was the desire of the king. It is the desire of the King of Kings today to see the church come to him on behalf of Israel. You remember that the Lord says, bless Israel, you will be blessed. There are two options, to bless Israel or to curse Israel. You know, there's nothing in the middle. And unfortunately, a lot of Christians want to be in the middle. We don't curse Israel. We don't hate Israel. But are you blessing Israel? Not really. But today, again, and I believe that you are in this third kind of church that is rising. Today, the church is rising in many nations to intervene on behalf of the Jewish people. And we see many Christians come to Israel to pray, not only for the salvation of the Jews, but to pray for concerning the threats of Israel today. And I want to finish with just one verse to show you this final merging of Israel and the church. And it's in Romans 15, verse 10. It's a quote from the Old Testament. Again, it says, rejoice, O Gentiles, with his people. You know, not apart from his people, but with his people, Israel. And we see, like this verse, a lot of verses in the New Testament that speak about Israel, and especially Romans 9, 10, and 11, but not only. That is verses that are calling the church to rejoice, to merge with Israel, and to rejoice with Israel. And this is why we see this movement among the Christians today to go back, to return to the biblical roots of the church, and see how the church can intervene and go to the king, and he will extend the golden scepter to the church today. This will be a big blessing for the church. There are challenges ahead, but we cannot fear. We know that he is with us. We know that this is the way that he's showing us. And if we take this way, we will see that he will call us good and faithful servants. This is the way that God has for the church today. And I believe that this is the way that God has for the church in the Philippines. May the Lord really bless you. Thank you.
Tunay nga pong ninanais ng Panginoon ay ipakita sa atin ang kahulugan ng tunay na pag-ibig. The love of God, not just on the Gentiles, but also our role as a Gentile to become one people, proclaiming the goodness of our Lord Jesus Christ. If you want to know more about this, if you want to really know about Israel's and the role of us as Christian, ayo po ay inaanyayahan sa Tuesday and Wednesday from 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock ng gabi. Hindi po kalayuan, tatawid lang po kayo dyan sa kabila. Dito na. Dito na gagawin. Lumipat na po pala. So hindi malayo. Malapit lang po. So dito na po tayo. So just please free to register doon po sa likod. And want to really know about our role in this end times. So let's all rise and let's sing this song. Alam niyo po, dumadaan tayo sa paglayag, sa isang journey na kung saan ninanais ng Panginoon, matutunan at malaman natin at tamaan natin ang pagkaplano ng Panginoon sa ating buhay. Can I ask the musician, please, to join me here, and we will sing this song, and afterward, I will ask Sister Beulah to pray. Give me eyes to see that for eternity you have a plan for me. than a million years from now. Show me my destiny so I can plan to be all that you want. More than a million years from now. Having a vision, building in wisdom, through consecration, we hit the mark, seeing what God planned as we understand, following God's hand, we'll hit